Hi, for those who don't know, is Andrew, your observer of thought, difference, and everything in between. I know. It's been a minute since I was last on here. I honestly had to regather, regroup, travel a bit, and while I was away, a lot was happening. And somewhere in all that, this thought found me from an experience or something I went through, if I can say that. So, today's episode is a difficult one. Not because it's complicated, but because it's uncomfortable. It challenges the idea that if you're doing everything right, things should go right. Because the truth is, you can do everything right and still be the problem in someone else's story. And that's where I'd like to start today. There's this idea that every situation has a villain, someone to blame, someone to point at, someone to say, that's the problem. But real life doesn't always work like that, because not every situation has a villain, but every story creates one. And sometimes the role gets given to you, not because of what you did, but because of what you represent. Let me talk about that a little more. There are moments in life where you exist in a space that requires a level of trust that currently does not exist within that time frame. Or should I say, there was a time I existed in a space that required a level of trust from someone, or from where, from someone, and they currently did not have that level of trust within that time frame. In that space, no matter how you move, no matter how careful you are, no matter how pure your intentions are, you will still feel misplaced, misunderstood, even blamed. Because perception can turn innocence into suspicion. Let me repeat that. Perception can turn innocence into suspicion. You can be respectful, you can create boundaries, you can step back, and still someone looks at you and sees a threat. Not because you are one, but because in their world, you make something feel unstable. And that leads to another truth. That intent doesn't always translate to impact. You might intend to be kind, to be present, to simply exist in a harmless way. But the impact might create tension. It might trigger insecurity. It might expose something fragile. And that's where things begin to shift. Because sometimes it's not about what you did. It's about what the relationship can't handle. Let me say that again. It's not about what you did. It's about what the relationship can't handle. Let that sit for a second. We like to believe relationships are built purely on love, but that's not always the full picture. Because people don't leave because of love. Sometimes they stay because of comfort, fear of starting over, attachment, ego, history. And in those situations, trust is fragile, insecurity is high, and outside people become easy targets. Even if those outside people did absolutely nothing wrong. Like, think about it. When someone isn't secure in their relationship, platonic or non-platonic, whether it's love, fear, or uncertainty, anything outside of it starts to look like a threat. Not because it is, but because the relationship doesn't feel strong enough to ignore it. And this isn't just about romantic relationships. This shows up everywhere, between parents, kids and their parents, friendships, family dynamics, even partnerships built on years of history. Anywhere where there is insecurity, unresolved tension, or unspoken fear, you find this pattern. Someone on the outside becomes the easiest explanation for what's going on the inside. And just like that, you can become the villain in someone else's story without doing anything wrong. It's crazy, isn't it? But that's the part people don't talk about enough, because we are taught if you're good, you'll be seen as good. But life doesn't always reflect the truth that cleanly. Sometimes it reflects fear, and fear needs direction. It needs somewhere to go. So what happens? Sometimes people aren't staying out of love. They're staying out of fear, and fear needs something to blame. Something to point and say, that's why things feel off. That's the reason I feel like this. That's the problem. And if you happen to be in the wrong place, at the wrong time, in the wrong dynamic, that something becomes you. So what do you do with that? Do you fight it? Do you try to prove your innocence? Do you explain yourself over and over again? Or do you understand something deeper? That not every situation is yours to fix. Not every perception is yours to change. And that not every role assigned to you is yours to accept. Because here's the truth. You can be respectful. You can be intentional. You can create distance. You can do everything right and still not be received the way you deserve. But that doesn't mean you become less. It doesn't mean you were wrong. It just means you were part of a story that needed a villain, and you were available. So instead of shrinking, instead of over adjusting, instead of carrying something that isn't yours, you stay grounded in your actions, in your boundaries, in your truth. Because at the end of the day, you are not responsible for the fears you didn't create or the insecurities you didn't plant. And maybe that's the real lesson here. You won't always be understood correctly, but that doesn't mean you lived incorrectly. This was unexamined, unfinished, on purpose. This has been Andrew, your observer of thought, difference, and everything in between. I'll see you in the next one.